morning or good evening. It's a virtual developer conference. Thank you for attending this. The session today is about Sitecore and Salesforce. The presentation really focuses on things to know when you try to integrate data between Sitecore and Salesforce. So if you are using Sitecore today for the content management platform or the experience platform, or using Salesforce today and trying to think of a good content management platform, this session is for you. This session is primarily focusing on developers, but marketers can get enough information out of it so that they can be intrigued. A little bit about myself, right? I am Sheetal Jain. I'm the practice lead Sitecore at Horizontal Integration. I have been fortunate enough to, working in Sitecore for about 10, 11 years. And I don't know, I somehow managed to get 6-time Sitecore MVP as Microsoft professional and a dad. I have had pleasure of working with some of the great brands like United Health Group, Northwestern Mutual, Stratasys, Nationwide, where I did work on Salesforce and Sitecore implementations. The first question you may ask, right? Why there is a need of integration? You have Sitecore as an experience platform, has email marketing capabilities, has marketing automation, and has a galore of other features. So why would you need to integrate, right? Reality is, in today's world, a lot of these organizations are in this disparate system syndrome. What do you mean by that? The disparate system is really about having multiple systems specializing in certain things, like Sitecore, known for efficient enterprise-level content management. Salesforce, marketing. These marketing systems and content management systems create a life for marketers and developers where they have multiple systems to deal with. Hence, there is a need of tighter integration. Now let's look at some of the common objectives of integration. First is when you have different systems, the experience is disjointed. As you all know, if you have attended Sitecore Symposium, experience is the brand and brand is the experience. So we are really talking about a connected experience. So in this case, Sitecore and Salesforce really allows the connected experience to come to reality, which means as a customer, I enter site, have my web experience powered by Sitecore, amazing personalization capabilities, and the moment I leave the website, any other touch points like multi-channel, like mobile or email, are coming from a different system. How good it would be to get a similar cohesive experience. At the same time, trying to match the online and the offline systems, customer data in your CMS, which is being collected real time, integrating with your CRM data, creating a 360-degree view of the cycle, hence the integration. Now, let's move on to talk about, we're talking about Sitecore and Salesforce. So at a snapshot, Sitecore, as you all know, is an enterprise CMS, has great personalization capabilities, allows for multi-channel delivery, and biggest for developers is an effortless integration. Sitecore is an ASP.NET platform-based CMS, so it's completely on Microsoft stacks, from SQL Server to ASP.NET and ASP.NET Core. Now, it gives effortless integration and customer modules, which allows us to integrate between Sitecore and Salesforce. Now let's look at Salesforce. Salesforce is an enterprise-level CRM or marketing tool. Now, Salesforce is huge, and it has collection of applications, and we'll look at it in a bit. But really, what I want to stress here is Salesforce is an enterprise-grade CRM marketing system which a lot of organizations use. And so are they using Sitecore. The story here is we need to connect both of the system for connected experience. That's the premise of the presentation. That's where we would want to head to. Enter Sitecore Connect. What is Sitecore Connect? Sitecore Connect is a module which allows to synchronize data between Sitecore and Salesforce. Now you may ask, is Sitecore Connect new? I have done integrations 3 years ago between these systems. There are these APIs. There are these third-party integrators. What's so special about Sitecore Connect? Sitecore Connect is natively supported by Sitecore as soon as the partnership was announced November of last year. So with this tight partnership between Sitecore and Salesforce, Sitecore Connect gets the limelight, gets the support, and gets all the new features. So today we'll be taking a look at primarily 2 types of connectors. Let's see what they are. So when we talk about Salesforce, Salesforce is huge, but it can be easily broken down into 4 different parts. The Salesforce Sales Cloud, the Salesforce Marketing Cloud, the Salesforce Service Cloud, and the Salesforce Community Cloud. Each of these systems has unique capabilities. So let's take at one of the famous ones, the Sales Cloud. Whenever you hear the term Sitecore Sales Cloud, it's really the CRM. It's the contacts, the sales, the accounts, all of that information is stored in Sales Cloud. What's next? Salesforce Marketing Cloud. Marketing Cloud really offers you all the marketing capabilities, right from marketing automation all the way through Journey Builder. Everything is hosted in the Marketing Cloud. And a couple of other ones like Sales Service Cloud and Community Cloud, which probably we will not cover today because the connectors aren't available. But at a brief snapshot, I would say Salesforce has 4 major lines, and they are sales, marketing, service, and community. Today, we're going to take a look at sales and marketing. So what is about sales and marketing? So we have 2 different connectors available today. If you go to Sitecore site, dev.sitecore.net, you'll find 2 connectors. One is Connect for Salesforce CRM. Today they're on version 2.0.1, support for 9.1 as well. And another one is brand new in the market, known as Connect for Marketing Cloud. It's in its beta version 1.0, and it's available in the marketplace already. So that's where we connect Sitecore to Salesforce in these 2 major lines. First, Sales Cloud. Second, Marketing Cloud. So what does it really offer? What does the connector offer out of the box? So if you're a Sitecore developer or a marketer, you may be already aware of things like contacts, interactions, customer data, behavioral data, and things like that. So when we start with, the first thing is the contact and interactions from Sitecore seamlessly map to objects in Salesforce. What are these objects? Object is an entity in Salesforce which collects data. What are some of the common objects? Contacts, activity, accounts, and users. So what does this connector do is it creates a seamless interaction between these 2 systems. In a bit, we are going to show you how easy is it for a developer to just use this connector and connect Sitecore and Salesforce instances. I hope you're not bored yet and you're with me. So let's talk about the integration details. To integrate, there are 5 major steps of the integration between Sitecore and Salesforce Connect. We will walk through all these steps from system prerequisites to creating tenant and running pipeline batches. You will be aware of these terms when we run through the presentation, so don't worry if these terms seems alien to you. Let's talk about system prerequisites. For the latest connector to work, the Sitecore Experience Platform has to be on version 9.1, or you can say 9.0 and up, but the latest version is supported. So there is a 1-to-1 version mapping, which means that if you have a version 9.0 or if you have a version 8.0, there is a comparable connector. But for the latest and greatest features, you are requested to upgrade your solution to the latest version. XM generally does not support all the features of the Connect. So obviously XDB enabled would be another important feature set. And then as of August of last year, you require a separate license for integrating Sitecore and Salesforce. What do you mean by a separate license? Which means that it does not come out of the box as default. So talk to your Sitecore rep to get the latest information on that, but the information I have is it does require a separate license. And then on the Salesforce CRM side, what do you need? Pretty simple. You need a login access to the Sales Cloud, and you have to create a user who has API level permissions, which means that that user will be used to connect your Sitecore and the Salesforce instance. So basically what you're doing is all the information like customer secret and all the keys are being integrated from Salesforce as connection strings in Sitecore. The installation process is a little bit cumbersome, and you have a series of packages to install. If you're all aware, these are pretty standard Sitecore packages, which can be installed either in automated way using some of the tools available in the marketplace, or manually it can be installed. Some of these packages does also have separate service versions, which means that certain packages has to be installed for a service called content management and content delivery. And if you have it more scaled, such as processing, then you might need to have separate packages installed. The good news is all of this information is available on doc.sitecore.net, so it's pretty straightforward. Now let's pause a little bit and really talk about what is the foundation of the data synchronization. The foundation is data exchange framework. The data exchange framework is the meat of the solution between these two systems. It's the foundation of Sitecore Connect because data exchange framework provides the ability to define the synchronization process. It's not only customizable, it's easy to use, and it's modular, which means that everything is a process and it's encapsulated into pipeline. So you can run a series of pipeline using batches, or you can run a specific command, which means that it gives you a deeper insight into each and every step of the integration, which is really cool. And data exchange framework is the background. Obviously, data exchange framework has been there for a while, and the more knowledge you have about data exchange framework, the easier it gets as a developer. So one of the things I request all of the developers is to know more about data exchange framework before diving deep into Sitecore and Salesforce Connect. Some of the other modules which gets installed are the CRM provider so that objects in Salesforce can be mapped. Sitecore provider for data exchange framework. So these are pre-built definitions which are already available so that when you create a tenant in data exchange framework, these packages get installed. Now you have Connect provider for data exchange framework where you have your custom models or custom facets being generated, and then this Connect can connect your contacts in Sitecore to objects in Salesforce. And this is the beauty. There is a Sitecore Connect for Salesforce. There is a pre-configured synchronization process, which means out of the box, you already have a working solution. That's the beauty of it. This connector from start to end, if you finish installing successfully, you have an already working synchronization process between Sitecore and Salesforce. How cool is that? Which means from start to finish, in an hour, you can get Sitecore and Salesforce working. Without any delay after this presentation, if you have both of these instances, why don't you play out? A small tip for developers. If you are a developer and you really would like to try it out, Sitecore and Salesforce, they have a trial version. The Salesforce Lightning Sales Cloud has a trial version. You can go in and get a trial version for yourself so that you can test it out. And we'll show it in the demo in a bit. The third part of the installation is really deploying some XDB models. What is it? So that Sitecore Contact and Salesforce Contact can map with each other, we require certain fields, which means that we have to extend our contact by custom facets. So basically what we do is add a new facet, and the pretty standard process in Sitecore 9 is you add a facet and then you deploy it to your Connect server and indexing server. Troubleshooting tip. The last deploying the model sometime may require you to restart the service. So make sure that you restart the service. So there are two places, Connect server and indexing server, where your custom model has to be deployed. Now let's come to Salesforce. So what do you do in Salesforce? You log into Salesforce and then you create a connected app. What is connected app? Connected app is a mechanism which allows authenticated access for certain services to Salesforce, which means that the standard OAuth authentication is allowed using a secret key and a client key, which is generated in Salesforce. So basically you take those values, add it as connection strings, and then your app is ready. The app can take about 2 to 10 minutes to come to life. So anytime you're creating a connected app, that's possible. One thing to know is the relationship is one-to-many, which means that a single Sitecore instance can connect to multiple Salesforce apps or multiple Salesforce instances as well. More details can be found in the documentation. And the final step. So what is the final step? So once everything is installed, all you're required is, and people who know data exchange framework, this might be a little easier, all you need to do is create a tenant. Basically, tenant is a collection of pipelines or collection of items which has all the data about mapping objects from one system to the other. It's pre-baked, you right-click, create a tenant, and there you go. You have all of your synchronization process, and it will come out of the box with 3 different pipeline batches, which you can run, and we'll show it in a demo in a little bit. So just to recap, this process basically is of 5 steps, and all of these steps is relatively straightforward. And starting from start to end, it took me about 2 hours to get up and running. So there you go. Some system prerequisites all the way to create tenant and run pipeline batches, pretty straightforward. So what do you have now? We have a connection between Sitecore and Salesforce Sales Cloud. Woohoo! How great is that? So let's talk about the demo. This is the most interesting piece of this exercise. So what is a demo? The first thing is I'm going to show you Sitecore Experience Platform. Means first thing is visitor is visiting my demo site, which is built on Sitecore 9.0.2. Then he is submitting a form. That form is nothing but created by Sitecore Forms. Another great feature of Sitecore Experience Platform, out of the box, marketers can create seamless forms. So the user will fill up a form. Next, data gets submitted to custom experience forms database, it's a SQL database, and we wrote some custom actions. Using EXM, I created a triggered email message, which really goes in and collects that form data and sends an email. Connect creates a contact card. Again, that's through custom action. And EXM basically sends an email. And the final step is that email is now triggered as activity in Salesforce, and that contact information is available instantly. So looking at this demo, I want to stress on a couple of important facts. As you can see here, it uses the best of Sitecore and the best of Salesforce. Starting from the experience platform itself, Sitecore Forms shows how easily are custom actions to be built on Sitecore Forms. How easy is it for us to customize Connect? How easy is it to create a subscription message in EXM? And finally, the data getting transported to Salesforce. The biggest thing here I want to stress that is all of these different sets of things work cohesively with each other. That's the reason the connector is robust, scalable, and I have seen synchronization for over 300,000 records in a decent time, which means that it is scalable. So really, it gives us the best of both the worlds, the best of the content management platform Sitecore and the best of Salesforce. All right, now is the show time. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the desktop and show you a little bit about the connector. Let's log into Sitecore, and I hope the screen is visible. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to really go into Sitecore, System, Data Exchange, and the Salesforce tenant. What is this? The Salesforce tenant is a tenant which I just created. So for example, if I were to go and, on the data action, I could create a Connect for Salesforce tenant, and basically I could create a new tenant. That's how simple is it, that's how easy is it, and you can create multiple tenants, as I can say, because Sitecore has the capability to connect to multiple Salesforce instances. We're not going to do that now. There is this existing Salesforce tenant. So here, there are a few important things which I would like to, mention. The first important thing is the endpoint. Now, what is the endpoint? Endpoint is the information about the systems you're trying to connect. In this case, Salesforce and Connect. Let's take a look at the Salesforce. So the Salesforce client endpoint, simple, has a connection string name called mysf. And then obviously, they have made it easier to troubleshoot any of the connections. So here, if you go onto the endpoint and click on this Run Troubleshooter, that's going to tell you if your connection is successfully established or not. So this message basically tells me that the connection was successfully established. And this mysf is a connection string which has all of the information such as username, password, client secret key, and you know that I won't show you those all things right now. But if you go into your standard connectionstrings.config file, you should find that information. Let's take a look at Connect. Standard, the Connect is your Sitecore system, and I have for local self-signed certificates, I have just checked the allow invalid certificates, but in a standard environment, you probably should uncheck that. And again, all of this Connect.collection is again the connection string where it gets the information about my Connect service. So pretty straightforward, and probably I should uncheck my standard fields, and then here I'm gonna run the troubleshooter again to tell the Connect is again successfully established. So those are the first two important steps in an installation to run through these both endpoints and make sure that the connection is successfully established. One interesting thing while troubleshooting, which I found, right? So I was in a process of creating a custom facet to store some Salesforce data into Sitecore Contact. Now what was happening is, for some reason, the X Connect was not recognizing the new model. The first question in my mind is the model deployed? So what do you do? As a developer, I would pretty much go and say, okay, in my models folder, do I have the model? Which I did. And as you can see, the path here is X Connect, app data, jobs, continuous index worker, app data models, right? I also went into the standard X Connect and then went into app data and models. So this is the second place where I have my custom model. But sometimes even when these JSON files were presented, it was not recognizing. So a little piece of advice here is this particular command, as you can see under data exchange chunk, when you are on an endpoint, when you are on X Connect endpoint, why don't you click on show deployed models? Now what that will do is it should list your custom model. So as you can see, I have standard X Connect models, I have EXM model, I have content testing, but the last one, if you pay attention, that's my custom model. Now this is the panel which is going to tell me if my model has been deployed or not. And that's how you can know that your custom model has been deployed. We'll come back to this data exchange framework, but before I leave here, this is how you create a tenant. And the next important thing is known as the pipeline batches. Completely customizable, you can create your own pipeline batch, but as I told you, Sitecore comes with pre-configured batches so that once you install it, you're ready to go. So what are those? Pretty standard. A batch which syncs your Salesforce contact to X Connect, which means from Salesforce to Sitecore. The last one is X Connect contact to Salesforce, which means from Sitecore to Salesforce. So again, bidirectional. It's not unidirectional. Bidirectional, you can take the contact and submit the data. And there is a custom one called Salesforce task, which means a certain task like sent an email, and if a contact was sent an email, those gets as activities in Salesforce. So it's beautiful. And as you can see, the pipeline batches is pretty straightforward, and as you can see, it's running a series of pipelines. So it's running a pipeline called read contacts from Salesforce pipeline, which is basically this one. And it has a series of different steps which you can pay attention closely, that add X Connect to the client, read contacts from Salesforce, again reiterating how modular it has made, and it's easy for developers to take a specific process, customize it, modularize it. So again, a good example of a modularly built synchronization process. I extremely love data exchange framework. Many of the developers think that it is complex. Some of the other integrations are straightforward. I can just use API, write few lines of code. But the real important thing we're trying to solve here is the foundation is so strong. That's just a curve you have to cross. Believe me guys, I was in the same boat a couple of months ago when I was dealing with data exchange framework, and it was really, really complex to understand. But once you understand that, or once you take a look at that, it takes a while to understand, but after that, it's a smooth roll. Next, let's really talk about how are things in Salesforce. So here, as you can see, I am in my Salesforce instance, and this is called an object called contacts. It's nothing but, it's a CRM system. As you can see, I have a few contacts, and if you pay attention at number 4, I have Peter Brinkman. I like Peter. Hello, Peter. And as you can see, that contact, I'm gonna go ahead and edit that contact and check some few things here. So I never created Peter's contact in Salesforce, but it came from Sitecore. The first thing here is a field called Sitecore ID. Let's pause here a little bit and talk about these fields. Remember I talked about this custom models which we deploy to Salesforce, and this custom facets, I create a facet called Salesforce contact ID. When I come to Salesforce, I created a custom field called Sitecore ID, and basically that is the unique identifier required for synchronization process. It's an important thing. It's a unique identifier to synchronize between two systems. So probably the GUID which you are seeing is nothing but a Sitecore contact ID. So now, as you can see at the bottom, it says created by Sheetal Jain, and it was this morning. I was doing some trial demos at my hotel room, and it was modified at 8:21 a.m. So basically, Peter's information came from Sitecore to Salesforce. What I'm going to show you now is let's update some stuff and see how the Sitecore updates that data. So the first and foremost I'm going to do is I'm going to enter my phone number here, or Peter's phone number. Don't worry, that's not actually Peter's number, so don't try it out. So much fun in doing live demos. I'm going to add a title, I don't know, senior director. I don't know what, like senior director, that's fine. So as you can see, I put title, I put phone, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to update his birth date. What I'm doing, I'm just updating things in Salesforce so that I can show you these things can travel back to Sitecore and we can see the data. And I'm going to save the information. The contact Peter Brinkman was saved. So as you can see, the senior director, the phone number has all been information. And in a bit, I'll show you how this data is going to travel back to Sitecore. So I go back to Sitecore, and what I'm going to do here is I want my Salesforce contact to sync with Sitecore. So I'm going to run the pipeline batch. I'll pause here a bit. And you might ask me a question. Like, is this process manual? Every time do I have to run these pipeline batches to sync? The answer is no. The custom actions which you can help to trigger some of these activities on a scheduled basis. You can use a standard scheduler, or you can use your custom process for doing that. For sake of the demo purposes, I'm just gonna run it manually. So here is Salesforce contact to X Connect sync started. That's beautiful. So now what I'm gonna do is live demo, fingers crossed, praying to demo gods. Open up my experience profile, and I'm going to try and look if I have Peter Brinkman, which I do. So I'm going to click on Peter Brinkman, and I'm going to click on details. I have all of my things here. Senior director, which I just entered in Sitecore or Salesforce. Phone number, birth date, address. So this is a real time. How much time it took? Probably 2 seconds. So this is how data from Salesforce effortlessly can travel to Sitecore. Now let's look at a holistic demo right now. So here I'm opening up an incognito private browsing, and I'm on my demo site. Sitecore Connect for Salesforce demo. So I'm a visitor. I start entering my data. So I don't exist right now, but I'm trying to enter it here. So I'm going to enter some data. Let's put Thomas here, and that's not his correct email address, so don't worry. I enter my data. Now what happens? This data is being powered by Sitecore Forms. There are some custom submit actions, and this will cause, and let me make sure that my email utility is up and running, which is thank you, and I'm going to send a message. I get a thank you message. And on the bottom right, if you can see, I receive a message with EXM. I have a local host enabled. And I use a small utility called Papercut. It's pretty standard and good. So I receive an email from EXM, which says, Sheetal Jain to Thomas Verga, welcome to Salesforce demo. Great. And I close out this browser. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back to my Salesforce instance. Take a look at running another pipeline. Again, system, data exchange. I'm going to go and run a pipeline batch. This time I'm going to do the X Connect contact to Salesforce sync. What does it do? It creates a synchronization process between your X Connect contacts and Salesforce sync. So I'm going to run this. They have started. Oh. And it's running on local for a bit. Let's let it run. It's running for 15 seconds. And as you can see here, it ran for 18 seconds and see entity submitted 1. That message tells me that a new contact was identified in Sitecore and was pushed to Salesforce. So now as you can see, my entries have been submitted. I click OK, and I'm going to refresh this page. I only have 6 contacts, fingers crossed, demo gods. I want to see Thomas Verga here. The last entry, number 7. Woohoo! Thomas Verga has now been registered in my Salesforce. You see, the bi-directional example is so easy to use, so simple. A couple of things I would like to highlight that I sent an email called Welcome to Salesforce Demo to Thomas, right? So let's check at that. So here is a demo. It was sent by the system to Thomas. It was an automated email campaign because they registered. So now I'm going to open this up, and I want you to pay attention to the right side of the screen. Look at that. So what this shows is, it is showing you that an activity, Welcome to Salesforce Demo, was registered with Thomas Verga and has a Sitecore ID. The beauty of this is, I have shown you context, right? But this is called as interaction. So basically, the power is endless. You can take interactions from contacts and push it all the way through contacts in Salesforce objects. So here you see is an activity object, and these are different type of objects here. It's an activity object, and I can see my Salesforce demo has already been registered, that we sent that email to Thomas. Now really imagine, all of this information is seamlessly shared between these two systems to get a unified 360-degree view. For the sake of demo, this might look simple. This might look just as use case, but what I'm really trying to stress here is the possibilities. If you can create one custom facet and push it to Salesforce, you can create 100 custom facets and push it. If you can push to objects like contacts and activity in Salesforce, you can do it to any other objects in Salesforce, the users, the accounts, and things like that. The example here really is stressing on the fact that it's a beautiful automated process which allows you to do it, and the foundation is pretty strong. The data exchange framework, which is the basis of this connector, is pretty amazing. Now, in a little bit in Sitecore, what I want to really talk about is a few things. I quickly want to go into my Sitecore forms, and the reason I want to go is I want to explain you some things which needs for you to work this synchronization. So I have this contact form here, and I'm gonna click on the custom submit actions. And for most of you, if you're a marketer or a developer, haven't tried out the new Sitecore forms, it's pretty slick and new, and it's easy to use. And here, as you can see, I have created some custom submit actions. On the right side, the first custom action is known as the save data. Now, what is the save data? The save data is basically saving the data to the experience forms database. It just takes that, and there's a experience form database on your SQL server, and that's how it stores the data. The second one is a custom submit action I created called as update contact details. By default, Sitecore, all the contacts are anonymous unless they are specifically identified. So basically there needs to be an identifier which identifies the contact. So in this update contact details, as soon as the form is submitted, I create a contact with that information so that my contacts now then can be used to sync. So by default, you won't have any contacts because all of them would be anonymous. I also created a custom email campaign message to send an email, and this triggers an interaction and hence an activity in Sitecore, and then finally redirect. I stumbled here that the redirect has to be the last step here. So if you are trying this, make sure redirect to page is the last custom submit action. Otherwise, any action after redirect to page will be generally skipped. And I found it the hard way, after the entire night. And it was straightforward, but it took a time. So a little tidbit for developers that if you're doing custom actions, redirect to page should be the last one, because before that, it won't execute any of the actions after that. So that's there. I quickly also want to go to my email experience manager to show you the form I created, or the subscribe email I created. And it is showing some values here. So let me look at the automated tab. And then there should be an automated email campaign, which basically I created for this purposes. And this email campaign is now getting triggered from Sitecore. So you can see the email campaign preview and automated email campaigns. So again, coming to the fact that using all the tools out of the box, like a form, an email campaign manager, and sending that data, syncing that back and forth is just pretty seamless. So that's another advantage which I really found of these systems. We'll talk a little bit more about, but before I lose context of it, I want to quickly move on to the next topic. I really want to talk about the entire integration landscape. In this diagram, what you see is on the right top, you see Sitecore Experience Platform. And at the bottom, you see Salesforce Marketing Cloud, which we haven't talked about it yet. And then on the left-hand side, you have Salesforce Sales Cloud. Now, what is Salesforce has tighter integration between its own cloud platforms like Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud. The possibility of sharing this data between these three systems seamlessly using this Connect platform is going to give you best of both the worlds. I was just talking to Scott Mulligan from Sitecore about the new Habitat demo site. So if you haven't gotten a chance, please check out the new Habitat demo site, which has a couple of interesting use cases about this integration. But imagine the possibilities of getting the status of an email from Salesforce, getting the status of a particular step in Journey Builder from Salesforce. All these three systems now integrate seamlessly between each other, which now forms the premise and the foundation of connected experience. As developers, our responsibility is increasing every single day because we are hearing Salesforce a lot more now, and most of the Sitecore clients are preferring Salesforce as their potential marketing platform. So a tighter integration means that getting to know in and out of Salesforce becomes even more important. So Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud and these connectors are going to be really, really important from a developer's perspective, end to end. So the Connect Marketing Cloud, what is it? Again, this is a different connector. Like Sales Cloud, you have Marketing Cloud. Now what is Marketing Cloud? Marketing Cloud is basically a connector between the Marketing Cloud and Sitecore. It's pretty easy to use and install. As you can see, there are only 3 steps. The system prerequisite still remains the same. And now the second thing is installing the packages and then creating a Salesforce connected app. It's pretty straightforward. In the version 1, it is the only use case 1 is solved, but I just want to talk about some use cases. So for example, I have a scenario where there are 2 people, let's say Sheetal and Justin, and they subscribe to the newsletter on the website. Naturally, that website is powered by Sitecore. Now, Salesforce Marketing Cloud receives the behavioral data and content from Sitecore using the connector. Using data extensions and Email Studio, the personalized emails are sent. Now users receive personalized email based on content and analytical data from Sitecore. Just the process of taking the web experience and connecting the email experience together to give a connected experience is the beauty which this connector really brings to the table. Here, as you can see, I have installed the Salesforce connector. As I told you, it's a Sitecore package available. It's version 1.0. Version 2.0 is almost nearing to release. By the time you are seeing this presentation, the connector should be available in the marketplace. Now, this configuration is pretty straightforward. There's a configuration item in Sitecore. Once you install the module, you get the configuration item. And that configuration item, basically, what it asks you is just to provide that information about the folder which you need to sync. The use case is sync media from Sitecore to media in Salesforce, which means as a marketer, for your website and for your emails, you don't need 2 images. Just put it in Sitecore. It just gets seamlessly transferred over to your instance in Salesforce, which is obviously Connect Content Builder. As you can see here, I have this folder called SFMC, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload a new file for Audrey. And what I'm trying to do is I have an image which I need to use for my website. And that image is now going to be stored in Sitecore. At the same time, a sync process, right? A sync process using this connector syncs that image from Sitecore, takes it to Salesforce, which means that it is readily available in a folder in Salesforce Sales Cloud. So as you can see, order now has been uploaded, and obviously I try to save and I get a warning, alt text is missing. So hopefully I am going to now update the alt text. And once my image is uploaded, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look for a tab called Developer tab and click Push Media. Now that thing pushes the media from Sitecore to the Marketing Cloud. So quickly I logged into the Marketing Cloud, open up Content Builder, and there should be a folder on the left hand side, SFMC, and there you go, my Audrey is available. So yeah, as you can see, it's pretty straightforward, it's fast, and it allows us to move pretty quickly from one area to the other. Now let's talk about, I have this data. I have the data about Justin, I have data about Sheetal, it's a behavioral data. I'm going to now take a look at a thing called data extensions in Sitecore. The data extension in Sitecore is a way where I get the data from Sitecore. I know that Sheetal and Justin, they are interested in cooking and gaming respectively, and I know their behavioral data. I know these like it. So basically creating a segmentation of your users, coming that into Sitecore. So now opening an email studio, I have a newsletter, which is basically going out. Now I want to send relevant content. Like anyone else, I would really like to send relevant content. So now as you can see, for Justin, he's going to get a foodie message, but if it's for Sheetal, you're going to get a gaming message. So the data extension segmentation is really allowing you to seamlessly move between these two emails. That's the beauty of it. Quickly, what I want to do is, now I want to show you some of that in real time. So I am logging into Marketing Cloud. And here, what I want to show you here is a couple of interesting things here. First, the content builder. And as you can see in this content builder, I have this SFMC photo. And here, what it does is it directly synchronizes between your content from Sitecore and the content from Salesforce seamlessly. Now, if you look at Audrey, one thing we want to make sure we realize that the customer key is again a unique identification parameter, which is really used for synchronizing between Sitecore and Salesforce. This is the only beta version of it. I think emails and other tighter integrations are on the cards. So I feel that in the upcoming months, Sitecore and Salesforce, with their tremendous opportunity, are going to show us a lot of interesting things between these two integrations and how they are possible. Now, from a troubleshooting standpoint, it's pretty straightforward. I didn't have to deal much with any issues with Marketing Cloud. It's pretty straightforward and seamless as long as the versions are supported and you have the right version installed. The current Marketing Cloud does not use data exchange framework, but in future, let's hope that more tighter integrations are allowed between Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud with Sitecore. Coming back to my presentation, what to expect from the SFMC connector. We have seen the use case number one, insert Sitecore images in Salesforce Marketing Cloud emails, pretty straightforward. We have seen image number two, Sitecore behavioral data in SFMC, which means that when the behavioral data gets into Marketing Cloud, how can you take this behavioral data step by step? Sitecore automation is on the cards, and obviously using content blocks and personalized content blocks. So the roadmap is pretty straightforward, and let's hope the connector really helps us in solving some of the common issues our team faces today. It might be interesting that I have this presentation and I told that what are the things to know before integrating Sitecore and Salesforce, what are the 10 things you need to know, and I really covered a lot of different stuff. What I want to do is, before I end this presentation, I really want to take you to a snapshot overview again. First thing, licensing. It's important to understand that these products are licensed separately from your Sitecore, so make sure that you talk to your Sitecore representative to know more details about it. They will have the most accurate information. So please make sure that before recommending this product or before trying to plan for it, licensing should be on your radar to make sure that you have it covered. Connectors, first we need to understand that where are you connecting to which system, because Salesforce is not one system, they have different things: Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Service Cloud, Community Cloud. So the two connectors today which are available from Sitecore, again I'll repeat, the two connectors are Sales Cloud and Marketing Cloud. The connectors for services and community are not yet on the roadmap, and we'll hear more when there is announcements. So these are the two connectors. So a question, what if I want to connect to Service Cloud, or what if I want to connect to Communities Cloud? There are a lot of different options. Some of the third-party tools which I have used in the past, like Fuse IT is one of the interesting connectors which allows direct API access. But some of these other tools in the marketplace are not being developed anymore. My recommendation would be to strongly focus on the Sitecore connectors because of the support and the strong roadmap and stronger partnership ahead. What are some of the prerequisites? As I told you, one of the fundamental prerequisites is to have XDB enabled. A quick question you may ask, I am on Sitecore 8.0, can I use this connector? Yes, there is an older version of this connector which works the similar way, which you can use. But in our recommendation, all of the new features, all of the tighter integration is going to be available in the latest version. So please upgrade to Sitecore 9.1 to get the best of the content management experience platform like machine learning and Cortex. At the same time, this tighter integration. So my recommendation is going to be use latest version. I am on Salesforce Classic. Can I use it? Salesforce Classic is an older version. Right now, Salesforce Lightning platform. It is supported in both Classic and Lightning platform, so you don't have to worry about it. Custom objects is an area where you have to express some caution. Custom objects in Salesforce, if you have a lot of them and you are moving to Lightning platform, and there might be areas where you might need to do a little bit more research. Customizations. From a Sitecore standpoint, customization mostly will occur on your Connect platform using custom facets. Custom facets might have additional attributes. You can certainly customize that. We have shown an example. Seamlessly integrate with some other systems. Customizations in Salesforce is also important. You might need to create custom fields, pretty straightforward, point and click, and make sure that the unique identifier between these two systems are going to be similarly like the Sitecore ID part. So customizations part. Troubleshooting. A couple of things I would like to show in troubleshooting now is going to be where does all of the logs are stored when I run this synchronization process. So if you run into issues, go on to your standard Sitecore site, app data, logs. You should see log related to the data exchange. And I have this tenant. So this is an important thing. As you can see in my screen, the data is residing under the logs folder, standard logs folder. It's under salesforce.tenant, and it should have a log of all of the things which are using for Connect. So I'm going to open one of these things, and you can pretty much see that it's going to send you all the information. And here, as you can see, there was some error which were on purpose. There was an incorrect contact ID which was not saved appropriately, which caused an error. But again, it seamlessly goes on, and it will tell you how many contacts were read. So it's a really, really robust process. And to enable the logging level, Sitecore has made it very, very easier. But you don't have to change any config files, and that's again that's the reason I like data exchange framework even more now. So here I'm going to go back to my Sitecore quickly, and I'm going to show you how can you change the log levels, because that's important for any troubleshooting scenarios. So again, system, data exchange, and pipeline batches. So if I were to go to Salesforce Contact pipeline batch, take a look at that. Log levels. So you can enable or disable any of the log levels all the way from debug to fatal, and this is really important because it logs extreme detail. And it was helpful for me. I know it didn't run for the first time, and showing live demos, how that goes. So this really helped me. So these pipeline batches generally allows me to go each and every level deeper to understand where this is. So that's there. Similarly, and these also have a beautiful information. It will tell you when it was requested and when it ran last. So this really helps you to get into that details. Now, I think the last piece of this segment, which I really want to talk about, is sometimes Salesforce will not store your data, your contact does not come in, and if you don't have a clear log, sometimes just field not found or entity not found is the most common error I'm seeing. At least one field name is required. Most importantly, you have to understand that here I am in the object manager called contact. It's in Salesforce, and here I have the Sitecore ID. So one thing I stumbled accidentally here, and it was really important, is going to be this checkbox. I missed updating this checkbox, which is known as the external ID, where it says that set this field as a unique record identifier from an external system. Now this external ID, if it's not checked, this is not going to be the one-on-one unique identifier, and it's really important. And this external ID, quickly I'm going to show you here, is the same as this Salesforce contact ID. That's how it maps, and I'm here in this shard database where I'm having the contact identifiers. So that's how it is going to show these things to you. From start to finish, I think most of my issues were in custom models, and then the connection, the troubleshooter in Sitecore, which I showed you earlier, can help. Some of this data which it collects, it's going to be beautiful. And one thing I want to tell you is, for the contact to get created in Sitecore and to be displayed, session does not need to end. You don't need to wait 20 minutes. You don't need to set your timer to 1 minute. It's almost instantaneously seamless. So that's the beauty of these systems, which can allow us to do a lot of different and amazing things. Getting back to my presentation, I think I would like to thank you for attending this Sitecore for Salesforce. Some parting thoughts. I feel that if you really want to get your hands dirty, I think the Habitat demo site on github.com/Sitecore is a great starting point. There are some really good use cases. Scott Mulligan, I have talked to him about it, and I think I will also upload some of my learnings into a blog format, so you will be able to get that. And I really thank you for attending this virtual developer session.